That's what actually galvanized people that are dissatisfied with the Democratic Party, and that debate's going to continue after election.
Yeah, and I hope Mamdani actually does become the future of the Democratic Party. And if I were advising President Trump, I actually would not go after him. I would draw the contrast and the distinction between this is what the Democratic Party represents versus what the Republican Party represents: capitalism, pro-growth.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to yesterday's news channel, where we watch CNN so you don't have to. Earlier today, Shermichael Singleton joined the panel on the Arena with Casey Hunt with a bunch of liberals who, once again, attempted to turn John Bolton's indictment into a Trump-bashing segment. In the second clip, Shermichael Singleton and the panel discussed the New York mayoral race and Mahmood Mamdani, the socialist who might become New York's next mayor. Are you Anyway, let's watch Shermichael Singleton handle these liberal dolts with ease, and as is always when he's the lone conservative on the panel, say to himself, Scott who? And then we'll talk about how New York City is heading straight off a cliff. Let's go.
Started under the Biden administration, but Pete Hegseth has not faced any consequences either.
It started 2021. It's interesting, though, Shermichael, because the Wall Street Journal's editorial board released this op-ed this morning saying, quote, there's little doubt that the underlying motivation for this prosecution is retribution. And you can't just look at this, you know, in a vacuum. You have to look at the other indictments, too. You have James Comey, Letitia James. Those, of course, are different cases, and that distinction has been made by our legal analysts. But do you think that those other indictments essentially could weaken this case and the words that Donald Trump has used himself to target John Bolton?
No, I think those two cases are set aside. I see them as being disparate from this case. Again, as you noted, this began under the previous administration. Now, look, it's fair for Bolton to make the case that, hey, I'm not being protected like the Secretary of Defense because I'm not a friend or a supporter of the president. Okay, I'll entertain that. But that's an odious comparison, in my opinion. He broke the law. John Bolton has been in politics for, 40 years? I'm 35. That's longer than I've been alive. There isn't a person who should know better than most individuals how to handle classified information. I had a top secret clearance when I was briefly in the government. They are very precise and strict on what you can and cannot do. And if I, at 26, I believe, when I got my TS, John Bolton absolutely should have known better if I did at 26 years old. So there is no excuse for this.
His strategy and approach was to actually be on the aggressive as well. Cuomo needed to do that. Mamdani chose to do that because I think he thinks his argument against Cuomo is fundamental to the message that he is trying to portray to the broader public.
So, Shermichael, do you think Cuomo did enough to close the gap?
No, I think Dave is 100% correct. I think it's going to be Mamdani. He's incredibly talented. As a Republican, I certainly don't agree with many of his positions, but there is something to be said about the arguments that he's making to New Yorkers that is palatable. I am concerned about some of his presentations on economics. I'm concerned about the idea of the role of government as it pertains to sort of level setting for people who have economically struggled. I think there's a different way to go about certain things, but that message is resonating. And if you're a Cuomo, folks in New York know who Cuomo is. And there's some real concern about his past misgivings. There's some concern about some of the things he did as governor. And he didn't, in my opinion, effectively address those things aggressively enough. Mamdani did. He showcased strength. And even if you're in New York and you're curious and maybe you say, I don't disagree with him, you watch that and say, this is a guy who will fight for me. And that moves the needle for voters.
What do you think?
So the host asked Shermichael something to the effect of, could Trump's other indictments or the words he's used against his, political opponents weaken the case? No, I don't think so. I'm no legal expert, but I believe that every case is supposed to stand on its own facts and evidence. And I'm pretty sure judges tell juries to ignore the noise, focus on what's right in front of you. Now, to be clear, I just said that having done zero research. So if there are any attorneys watching and I'm missing something, please correct me. I just thought all of that was common knowledge. Seems like a waste of multiple news segments to me, but I'm not a news producer either. I see a lot of comments that say, thanks for watching CNN so I don't have to, or how can you watch this crap all day? First of all, let me thank you for recognizing my intestinal fortitude and the sacrifices I make just to ensure that your day's a little brighter by you not having to watch CNN. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a hero necessarily, but watching CNN as much as I do does something to your being or your soul. It's like this feeling I have. I could never really describe it until I watched this panel, and now I can describe it perfectly. Here's what it feels like. It feels like Groundhog Day. That popped into my head when I was watching this episode, because when I was watching this episode, I said to myself, Have I seen this one already? Anytime someone gets indicted, James Comey, Letitia James, and now Bolton, for 4 days straight, they'll have a giant segment where the entire goal is to get the conservatives on the panel to say that they're upset with Donald Trump for voicing his opinion on these people that are indicted or about to be indicted. Now, Shermichael gave the polished answer. He's doing his job, but off camera, I can almost guarantee you that if you asked him that identical question, he'd just chuckle and say, no, just like the rest of us. Back to it.
New Jersey, I think there's going to be a debate as the results come in on election night in just a few weeks, Pamela, about which path forward the Democratic Party is going to pursue, because you're going to have different options available.
Yeah, and some Democrats are saying, oh, he only won because of his focus on affordability, and he won in spite of some of his left-wing views. Then there's some people that also believe that his left-wing views are at least like operating as an outsider outside of the party. That's what actually galvanized people that are dissatisfied with the Democratic Party, and that debate's going to continue after election.
Yeah, and I hope Mamdani actually does become the future of the Democratic Party. And if I were advising President Trump, I actually would not go after him. I would draw the contrast and the distinction between this is what the Democratic Party represents versus what the Republican Party represents. Capitalism, pro-growth. A lot of people in this country don't necessarily want the inability to gain wealth, to become rich. They just want it to be more accessible. And I think Republicans can argue we want to give more access to the capitals of success to the American people versus having a government-controlled, government-ran version of that. I think the average American would say we reject that overwhelmingly. So don't go after him, Mr. President. Let's utilize this as an example. I think that's good for Republicans.
And you mentioned...
Let me be very clear. I am ashamed. I am embarrassed. And I'm sorry. I am sorry to Speaker Gilbert. I'm sorry to his family. I'm sorry to my family. And I'm sorry to every single Virginian. I cannot take back what I said. But you have my word that I will always be accountable for my mistakes.
Was that statement enough, Sabrina?
I mean, it was a pretty forceful apology. I think he's taking ownership at the end of the day. It's up to the voters if that's enough. And on very different sides of the policy. And, I think voters will have to make that choice.
I would just say quickly the difference is Republicans have called for those individuals to lose their positions. The Republican Party of
except for J.D. Vance.
Yeah, that's a fair point, but the Republican Party of New York, they're
that's the vice president.
They're completely restructuring the entire chapter there. Republicans have condemned this. I haven't seen a single Democrat say, you know what, Mr. J. Jones, you should withdraw from this race. They have not done that because they care more about winning. I get the politics of it, but Republicans, if this were reversed, oh my God, the outrage would be beyond 10.
Do you think that J.D. Vance, the vice president, should condemn those?
Oh, of course I think the vice president should have condemned it. I would have condemned it. I get the vice president's point of saying, look, Democrats aren't condemning J. Jones, so why should we fall into this trap? I get that, but I think we got to be at a higher core.
All right, I'm going to thank our friends in the arena.
Yeah, if you didn't hear about that J. Jones thing, just go look up J. Jones text. It's hilarious because it's funny to see him scramble and apologize and everything. Yeah, but I think it's also scary because it's a reminder of the mindset of these people that we're up against. Mamdani, my first instinct is to say, I don't live in New York. If they want to vote an idiot like that in, let them suffer the consequences. But my better judgment has kicked in because ignoring this is only going to make it worse. Have you all come to terms with this? They're about to elect a literal socialist as mayor of America's biggest city. That's not a punchline to one of my bad jokes. That's time to panic. I was a kid during the Cold War, but I swear to you, this has been ingrained in me. Even then, I knew the basics. United States, good. USSR, bad. Capitalism, good. Communism, bad. And I don't want to hear, but socialism and communism are different things. You haven't know the difference. It's a different kind of socialism. It's not like the old bad one. The fact that the United States was on the brink of nuclear war to stop the spread of communism. And now we've got a bunch of morons being like, tell me more about this whole socialism thing. This is one of those times you're like, two-party systems do not matter. Well, I guess three-party because Cuomo's run as independent. But you know what I mean? This is literally a decision between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. Nobody wins. We have to keep calling out how preposterous this little resurgence in socialism is. Because if we don't, it won't just be a classroom fantasy on college campuses. It'll be city policy. And when that happens, it won't just be New York paying the price. But what did you guys think? What did you think of Shermichael's performance? We haven't featured him on the show for a while. And as some of you may know, he's one of only 2 people we've covered on the show that's actually acknowledged us here at Yesterday's News Channel. So we consider him a friend of the show, although I don't know that he's aware of that. And what do you guys think about New York? Is it going to happen? Are the voters actually going to hand the keys to a socialist? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you all so much for all your support, for taking some time to watch my video today, and for being the best viewers on the planet. Otherwise, do me a huge favor. Put God first. See you guys.